Taiju Ooki is about to confess his love for Yuzuriha Ogawa, a fellow student. After 5 years of unhealthy obsession, suddenly, a green light turns every human on the planet into stone, and nature takes control. 3,700 years later, Taiju is able to free himself from his captivity. Yuzuriha meets up with his genius friend Senkuu Ishigami, who had awoken 6 months earlier. After discovering the tree where he is petrified, Senkuu seeks to rebuild civilization in this stone world using his scientific knowledge and Taiju's brawn to help him develop a needle solution out of a miracle water made from bat guano that may be able to free people from their petrified state. After a year of research and development, the two friends have succeeded in creating a successful revival fluid blend. Senkuu and Taiju prepare enough revival fluid to resurrect one person, with Taiju selecting Yuzuriha as the first subject. However, they are suddenly pursued by a pack of hungry lions, prompting them to resurrect Tsukasa Shishio, the town's strongest fighter, to fight them off. Tsukasa kills the male lion and skins it to wear as part of his outfit. Senkuu assigns Taiju with harvesting seashells and grinding them into calcium carbonate as a first step towards advancing civilization, as Tsukasa has proven to be a valuable hunter, providing food for the trio. Tsukasa, on the other hand, tells Senkuu that he plans to murder petrified adults in order to create a world free of corrupt adults, which goes against Senku's ideals of reviving everyone. Senkuu sends Tsukasa away to find the source of the revival fluid while he and Taiju prepare a batch of revival fluid to finally revive Yuzuriha. Senkuu and the others set out for Hakone in search of scientific weapons to stop Tsukasa's murder spree, with Yuzuriha finding the Great Buddha of Kamakura to serve as a landmark. Senkuu is given the ability to make gunpowder after the trio arrives at a volcanic hot spring. Following Senku's successful batch of gunpowder, which Taiju inadvertently sets ablaze, the group notices a different source of smoke in the distance, implying that there are other survivors. Senkuu decides to light the gunpowder even more to use as a smoke signal, prompting Tsukasa to track him down and kidnap Yuzuriha in order to get the recipe for the revival fluid. Senkuu recalls how he developed his love of science and became friends with Taiju as he relinquishes the recipe to save Yuzuriha and is given the option of abandoning science or dying. Senkuu prepares to die at Tsukasa's hands, refusing to abandon science. After Tsukasa appears to kill Senkuu by striking him in the neck, Taiju and Yuzuriha use his gunpowder to set off an explosion around Tsukasa, allowing them to flee. Recognizing that Senkuu would not simply sacrifice himself, Taiju and Yuzuriha discover a spot of petrification on his neck, allowing them to heal the fatal injury by converting the petrification back to healthy flesh using the revival fluid. Meanwhile, a flashback depicts Senku's first steps out of his petrification and the tools he needed to survive. The flashback continues to show how Senkuu tracked down Taiju and set about unpetrifying him. Senkuu is successfully revived in the present thanks to the revival fluid, which makes him curious about the fluid's regenerative properties. Senkuu accomplishes this by sending Taiju and Yuzuriha as spies into Tsukasa's army while he searches for new allies. Meanwhile, a mysterious girl named Kohaku tries to attack Tsukasa, but she is trapped under a tree by Tsukasa, who then proceeds to the miraculous water cave. Senkuu discovers Kohaku after Tsukasa has left and uses his science knowledge to construct a block and tackle to lift the tree off of Kohaku. Senkuu is returned to her village by Kohaku, where he meets guards Kinro and Jinro, as well as a sorcerer named Chrome. Despite the fact that Chrome's sorcery fails to demonstrate his superiority, Senkuu recognizes Chrome's sorcery as the primitive beginning of the stone world's first scientific discoveries. Senkuu is so impressed with Chrome's progress on his own that he appoints him as his apprentice. Senkuu tells Chrome about the world that existed 3,700 years ago and decides to help him develop an antibiotic to save Kohaku's sickly sister, Ruri. After learning that Chrome became a sorcerer to help Kohaku's sickly sister, Ruri, Senkuu, Kohaku, and Chrome are aided in their search for the ingredients needed to make an antibiotic by another villager named Suika. The gang sends Suika to gather information on what the villagers want because they need more manpower to turn iron sand into iron. Senkuu discovers that food is a common theme among the villagers' desires and uses foxtail millet to make ramen to win them over. Jin Asajiri, a revived magician from Senku's time who had been sent by Tsukasa to confirm Senku's death, but claims he will instead give a false report, approaches the gang while they are eating ramen, Senkuu takes advantage of a sudden thunderstorm to transform the successfully completed iron into powerful magnets, while Jin uses his street magic to ward off a violent villager named Magma. The gang uses the magnets to construct a power generator, which they persuade Kinro and Jinro to operate, resulting in the light bulb's reinvention. Jin is suddenly attacked by a mysterious assailant while recalling the time he was first revived by Tsukasa, barely surviving thanks to fake blood bags he had protected himself with. When Kohaku discovers that the perpetrator was Magma, who mistakenly believed that Jin was the sorcerer rather than Senkuu, he reveals that Magma did so in order to win the Grand Bout, a tournament that Kohaku had previously defeated to prevent him from marrying Ruri and becoming village elder. Jin gives a false report to Tsukasa after Senkuu promises to make him a bottle of cola as Kohaku, Kinro, and Jinro train for the Grand Bout. Senkuu produces glass from quartz sand, which he uses to make glasses for Suika, who is nearsighted. Chrome hires Keisuke, a skilled craftsman who can quickly adapt to the unfamiliar substance because he lacks the skills required to glassblow usable lab utensils. Senkuu offers to make Jinro a silver spear as part of a dangerous mission to break in their new lab. Senkuu's silver spear turns out to be a sensor for detecting poisonous gases emitted by a pool of sulfuric acid, which they require for the antibiotic. Senkuu offers to teach Chrome everything he knows about science on the off chance that he dies, but Chrome declines, preferring instead to use a tag team approach. Chrome nearly falls into the pool while gathering the acid with special gas masks, but is saved by Jinro, who overcomes his fear and assists the duo in obtaining a bottle of the acid. Senkuu and the others start making the antibiotic's other components once they have their base ingredients. Senkuu joins the others in the Grand Bout, which offers alcohol to the winner. In order to complete the remaining elements, Senkuu is greeted by Ruri, who appears to recognize his name from somewhere. When he arrives in the village for the Grand Bout, Mantle, Magma's henchman, kidnaps Suika, ties her to a tree, and tells Kohaku that Suika is drowning, causing Kohaku to flee even though he knows he is lying. Suika, having escaped her captivity and noticing Kinro struggling with his vision, gives him her mask containing the lenses of her glasses, allowing him to see more clearly and defeat Magma in the first round. Magma deceives Kinro into consulting the referee so that he can attack from behind and claim victory. He then has Mantle throw his match against Chrome to disqualify Kohaku for not returning in time. When facing Magma in a one-sided semi-final match, Chrome combines his tears with Suika's glasses to create a magnifying lens capable of starting a fire. Jin returns, using his sorcery to divert Magma's attention long enough for Chrome to set fire to Magma's clothes and win the match. Following Chrome's match, Jinro informs Ruri that he and Senkuu will throw their matches together so that Chrome and she can be together. When Ruri says she will not pick a side and will marry whoever wins, Jinro is determined to defeat Senkuu and become the new chief, which everyone fears. Senkuu uses Chrome's weapon to hit Jinro's groins to win the match just before Chrome passes out. After fleeing from Jinro, Senkuu is declared Ruri's husband as a result of Chrome passing out before the final match, but he divorces her as soon as he obtains the alcohol he requires. The gang finally finishes their sulfa drug and gives it to Ruri after working all night. When Ruri's illness is discovered to be pneumonia, the sulfa drugs are found to be effective, and Ruri recovers completely. Senkuu is named the new chief of the village, which is revealed to be called Ishigami Village, as a thank you, and Ruri reveals that she already knew Senkuu. Ruri explains that she first learned of Senkuu's name from a story told to her by her mother. Senkuu's father, Byakuya, became an astronaut after Senkuu created an electric suit to assist him in passing the JAXA swimming exam. Byakuya joins fellow crew members Connie, Dahlia, and Yakov on the International Space Station 5 years after passing his exams, alongside cosmonaut Shamil Volkov and American singer Lillian Weinberg. Byakuya and the crew witness a phenomenon that turns everyone on Earth into stone, leaving them as the only 6 humans left. Shamil, Lillian, and Connie venture down to the surface after Byakuya deduces that the phenomenon originated in South America, but they end up in the middle of the ocean, requiring Byakuya and the others to go down and rescue them. On a nearby island, the 6 begin living together, forming relationships and raising children together. However, as the crew begins to succumb to pneumonia, Byakuya writes down the 100 tales in the hopes that Senkuu will one day be able to use them. Ruri returns to the present and takes Senkuu to the village cemetery, where Byakuya is buried. Relaying Byakuya's final message to Senkuu, the 100 tales are a scientific gift for him. Tsukasa and his army are approaching, so Jin warns Senkuu and the others. Kinro is beaten down by a group of Tsukasa's army led by a man named Hyoga as they approach the village. Senkuu, with the help of Jin and Magma, convinces Hyoga's group that they have already produced guns, forcing them to retreat. Jinro is unwilling to cut down the bridge to the village while Kinro is still on it. Hyoga's team attacks again 3 days later, this time during a storm that renders guns useless, only to discover that Senkuu and the villagers have managed to produce katanas. Despite the fact that Hyoga's spear technique makes him a formidable opponent, the spear breaks due to Jin's cunning sabotage. Hyoga reveals that his attack was just a ruse to allow his ally, Hamura, to sneak into the village and set fire to it, forcing the villagers out into the open. Suika successfully lures Hyoga's troops away from the village, stranding him and Hamura above the acid pool's poisonous gases. In order to protect the Kingdom of Science, 3 of Hyoga's minions are pushed off the tree and killed by the poisonous gases. Senkuu sets his sights on reinventing the cellular phone in order to attack Tsukasa's army before it grows too large. Hyoga, meanwhile, informs Tsukasa that Senkuu is still alive. Senkuu and Ishigami Village have started work on the cell phone, with plans to finish it by spring. Senkuu creates a cotton candy machine to test with sugar in order to manufacture gold filaments for wiring. Hamura, who has been spying on the Kingdom of Science, receives cotton candy from Senkuu. Senkuu develops a gear train for the cotton candy machine after running into problems while making filaments, inspiring Chrome to build a water wheel with Keisuke. Senkuu mechanizes the iron-making process with the new water wheel, allowing the villagers to focus on winter preparations. Meanwhile, Senkuu, Chrome, and Keisuke start working on light bulbs that will allow them to decorate a tree for Christmas. Chrome employs his new invention to delve deeper into caves, where he discovers a slew of new minerals. Senkuu and Keisuke attempt to build a vacuum tube, but they are unable to find a filament that can withstand the high temperatures. Senkuu receives inspiration from Suika during a New Year's sunrise and realizes that tungsten is the solution, so he sends himself, Chrome, and Magma on a spelunking expedition. Senkuu, Chrome, and Magma are looking for tungsten in a nearby cave. Magma tries to save Senkuu from falling into a sinkhole after they come across a mica vein, but they both end up trapped. By filling the sinkhole with water, Chrome saves them both. After coming across a mineral deposit, the 3 rush back to the village in order to make it in time for Senku's birthday celebrations. Jin and the village built an observatory for Senkuu while the 3 were away. Senkuu reveals the tungsten pile that will be used in the final preparation. To make it usable, it must first be crushed into a fine powder and then heated to an extremely high temperature. While Senkuu prepares the tungsten powder, he orders Chrome and Keisuke to use everything they have learned since Senku's arrival in the village to devise a method of pinpoint high-temperature heating. After the tungsten filament is made, everyone divides into groups to finish the remaining tasks. Suika and her friends finish twining the gold wire. Senkuu and Chrome make the necessary plastic. Kinro, Jinro, and Kohaku make a microphone out of coal ash, and Jin and Ruri make zinc carbon batteries. They all complete their tasks, and Senkuu puts it all together, resulting in the world's first modded cell phone. Senkuu informs the villagers that full functionality requires 2 cell phones. Much to their dismay, Ruri tells Senkuu about one of the 100 tales after testing the cell phone over a wire, alluding to a time capsule sealed in Byakuya's gravestone. A glass record. Byakuya intended to make a record that would allow him to communicate with Senkuu over millennia. Senkuu and the villagers are able to hear the astronauts' voices for the first time since petrification, as well as a song from Lillian. Thanks to a phonograph he reconstructed, the song motivates the villagers to recreate modern-day entertainment. Senkuu declares a stone war against Tsukasa with the help of the village and his cell phone. Taiju and Yuzuriha wait for Senkuu to finish his part of the plan while Yuzuriha keeps Taiju from revealing their identities. Tsukasa and Hyoga prepare for Ishigami Village's impending attack. Watch this next video. See you on the next one.